Okay, I'd like to make a comment before we move on. Obviously, we just finished our wildlife proclamations and the setting of the seasons, which is obviously, in respect to Bobby, one of the biggest events we have each year. We have our hunting, our fishing seasons, and I just want to comment on the amount of effort and time that our wildlife division, and especially Darryl Radachak and Mr. Ed Carter goes through. I'm so impressed with the response that we give to the public and all of the issues that they've sent in their concerns and how they're all individually looked at. And I think that the public needs to know that everyone is taken very serious. And I'm just very impressed with what the effort that the agency goes through, and I'm just proud to be part of it. I know sometimes as commissioners that we have our opinions and all, but our duties as commissioners is we are the ears of the hunters, and sometimes obviously there's disagreement, but there's not a disagreement in the amount of respect that we have for our biologists and what they do to ensure that we have the resources that we do, and we're very proud of it. And I'm just pleased that to be part of this process, and I think it's pretty impressive. So we'll move on to retention and recruitment. And at this time, we're going to ask Vice Chairman James Stroud to take over.
Thanks, Chairman. The Retention and Recruitment Committee and I would recommend passage of the proposed handicapped accessible hunting blinds on the TWRA wildlife management areas as a part of the Moment of Freedom program.
Second.
Thank you, James. We have a second. Any discussion? Would you like to say anything, Harold?
Thank you. My hope is this will pass, but just the fact that the commission has been so positive on this and staff, you all been remarkable. I just, whether it goes through or not, I hope it does, obviously, but just the attention you have given this is great, and my hope is that we're going to be able to help some friends who need a little bit of our help. So thank you again.
I think, I'm sorry. I think when business plans were taught in school, you went to that class. Whether you went to any rest of them or not, you went to that.
My comments are very similar. I just want to thank Commissioner Cannon for his leadership. It is impressive, to say the least, the thoughtfulness that's gone into this idea. It is very concrete, and I can see it, and it hasn't happened yet. I'm honored to be a part of it, a tiny part of it compared to the leadership of the agency and Commissioner Cannon, and really proud to support it. And I hope you'll make sure that we get on our work clothes and get out there and help, because I'll be there. Appreciate you very much.
I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to tell you that I get to be the mouthpiece on this. Maybe I'm the mouthpiece too many times, but on this one I'm very proud to be on behalf of these folks. Our staff have been absolutely remarkable, and they're the ones who have gotten this vision to become solidified. So thank you for your comments. I'll accept it on their behalf, because they're the heartbeat of this.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Cannon, I remember the first meeting you ever attended, and listening to you talk, I remember Chairman Milne and I looked at each other and went, wow, you still wow me, sir. And I had the opportunity to sit in the Region 1 meetings with you, and I just appreciate you letting us ride your coattails on this. It's awesome what you've done and what you're going to do, and I think all of us want to be a part of it, but you're to be commended, and I've got a lot of respect for you and what you do. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're ready to vote. We've had a first and a second, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Stroud. All right, we're going to move to the Budget Committee now. Chairman Jeff Griggs.
All right, I don't see Darren in the room, but with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'll just move on without him, if that's okay, for the sake of time, or if y'all want to bring him in. Is it okay if I continue on? Mr. Chairman, yesterday, the Budget Committee met, and Chief Boating and LE Division Officer Darren Rod presented a budget expansion The boating infrastructure grant was $1,285,900 to the city of Chattanooga Transient Dock Facilities. The committee and I recommend passage of this budget expansion.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. All right, any discussion? All right, so we'll vote on the vote on the expansion for the city of Chattanooga. Did you have a comment, Mr. Brown? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, also, Darren Ryder presented yesterday, budget expansion of infrastructure grant, $65,000 City of Chattanooga, $35,000 Town of Ashland City for transient dock facilities, for a total of $100,000. Budget Committee and I recommend passage of this.
Do I have a second? Discussion? I just want to know, is Chink, are you going to be here every month asking for money for the city of Chattanooga?
I'll skip a couple of
Okay.
June and July.
Junior.
Okay, let's vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay. I'd like to ask Dwight Hensley, is he in the room? I'll just ask you to go up for questions if somebody has one. But, Mr. Chairman, yesterday, our Chief Engineering Division came before our committee and asked for a budget expansion capital improvement project on Priest WMA for $12,000. The committee and I recommend passage of that.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Discussion? Any questions for Darren? Dwight, I mean? No questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
I don't see Mr. Radijak in the room, but also yesterday, Chief Wildlife Division Officer Darrell Radijak came before the committee and presented a budget expansion planning of 75,000 oak seedlings at John Tedley WMA for $30,000. The committee and I recommend passage of this expansion as well.
Do I have a second? Second. Questions? All right, we're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. The motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like to call Ken Tarkin, Administrative Services, to come up and give us a financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a two-page report in your books. I'm reporting through the month of April 2013. At the top of the page, the boating fund shows that it's 6.1% ahead of where it was last year. In all fairness, a deposit that would have been posted in the prior year had not been. It's not quite as rosy as it appears there. The actual boat registrations are not up as we would have hoped. The expenses posted through the fund approximate 50% of the annual allotment for the year. And middle of the page on the wildlife fund, the revenues are below where they were last year at 6.4%. And the expenses of current year is approximately 64% of the annual allotment. At the bottom of the page, the two endowment funds, the watchable fund has a balance of $5.6 million, which leaves $85 until more interest is posted to be transferred for those watchable programs. And in the Lifetime Sportsman endowment, there's $34,500,000 balance. On the second page, at the top, the Wetlands Acquisition Fund has $8,700,000. We've zeroed the maintenance fund out, and the compensation fund, in lieu of tax compensation fund at the bottom of the page, has $774,000. As of last week, the Comptroller's Office had certified the in lieu of tax payments to the county executives, and those payments have been made and posted, so they will show up in the month of May, and they're $372,500. Any questions or comments?
Anyone on the committee?
What's the
Mr.
actual boating year-to-date percentage?
It's probably 2 or 3% down.
And we, month after month after month, I mean, with wildlife, we're $2 million nearly down. What's,
Yes, sir. If we fast forward through the month of where we are in May, we're about 1.3 million down, a little bit, not quite 1.4 million down in wildlife. We've got only a few more weeks to catch up. It sounds like gloom and doom. It isn't. This represents a portion of our revenue, not all of it. Our revenue in federal is up in both boating and in wildlife. When you look at the balance of the funds, what we collect versus what we spend, we usually underspend also. Don't get me wrong, it's not good that we're below collections, but it's certainly not a time to call the dogs and cut and slash.
Don't you think that with the weather we've had, extreme, I mean, the coolness and all, that the boating probably is, I mean, I haven't re-registered my boat. I haven't put it in the water, and it's got to be done in the next few weeks. I mean, I've just kind of delayed because I hadn't put the boat in, and I'm just wondering if there's a lot of people like me because of the cool weather, they're just not using the lake yet.
Last week was, we collected more last week than the corresponding week of last year. And if we look back in Middle Tennessee, of course, it may not be that way throughout the state. It was a nice weekend. As far as licenses are concerned, hunt, fish licenses, typically if the weather is warmer, they sell better until you get to 100-degree weather, and obviously they fall off. Yeah, weather makes a big difference with it.
Can I ask what our interest rate that we're getting for our sportsman's endowment now, lifetime sportsman endowment, what kind of interest rate are we getting now?
A whopping 0.14%.
Are we restricted to a certain fund that by the state or something? We are?
We have no control over. The comptroller's office, or the treasurer's office rather, invests those funds, and there's two basic investment funds. Very little do I understand about it. One's LGIP, Local Government Investment Pool, one's a long-term. Any given time, one may be a fraction above the other, but basically they do the investments, and this is what we receive. And it's fluctuated the past year between 0.12 and 0.14%. That's not 1%, that's 0.1%.
Director Carter, could you update us on what we're hearing from the federal people about our senior license as far as matching funds?
I don't really have much of an update. The committee that's reviewing all that met last week in Wisconsin, and I haven't heard the final outcome of that yet, but I know that not only ours, but several other states are in the same situation. That was being discussed with the federal government. The last we heard back from them that they thought that they were on course and that they were right, and that they were going to hold that course throughout the rest of the states. But we've appealed it twice in the Southeast and now once on the national basis along with some other states. So expect to hear more. Matter of fact, we have a conference call this afternoon with the Executive Committee of Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, and I expect to know a little bit more after that. But there's really no change at this point.
If they don't approve of what we're charging to our seniors now, is there any way that we'll have any information that what it would take as far as charging to get the federal match?
There's two parts to that. One is that they have not given us a number, and we have asked for it on numerous occasions on how close would we have to be to the annual license on a yearly basis in order to be able to count that into the future. And that's the part they're contesting. That's the part that we can count on any 1 year doesn't make any difference. So we can charge whatever for that 1 year, but to be able to count it into the future, which is the whole purpose of a lifetime sportsman's license or a lifetime senior license, we have not been given any direction, nor have the other states.
Well, thank you for that update.
Any more questions from the commission? Anyone from the audience? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. I know, Director Carter, you're going to want to address us?
Yes, sir.
Okay. One thing I would like for you to comment on is what we can do to honor Mr. Alexander for all that he's done for us in the last few months.
I'm glad you said that. That's one of the places I wanted to start. This has been a kind of exciting month. I know today's the last day this month, but it's been a very good one. Before we get back to Senator Alexander, the Haley Jaquith SCTP range, former Commissioner Boyce Magley and a couple others were really instrumental in working with our folks down there to do a lot of background work. They opened that range, and it's a really nice facility to accommodate shooting in that area. So I just want to mention that on behalf of them. We appreciate all they did. As far as Senator Alexander has been concerned, this has been a busy month. We started with up in Topoco, up in Region 4, around Calderwood Reservoir. He was instrumental in getting the Brookfield Corporation to donate almost 4,000 acres of land to the Nature Conservancy, which is then being transferred to the TWRA as a wildlife management area, which we have been managing for a number of years in cooperation with them, but now it actually become, between U.S. Forest Service and us, we're going to add about 3,500 acres, possibly more, depending on negotiations final with the Forest Service and the Park Service. But, you know, that was good, obviously. Then the fishing below the dams has been a cause that he has championed quite a bit, along with the congressional staff in Kentucky. He drafted legislation, and it has passed both the House and the Senate that would prohibit the Corps of Engineers from putting barriers below the dams to keep fishermen out. It has gone to the President for signing. The last I have heard that it was not signed yet, and the Corps is still maintaining their restriction until the President signs that legislation or until it goes into law without his signature. But that was a huge thing that Senator Alexander championed. That was really good on behalf of not only the 900,000 fishermen, but also people that would be utilizing that area for other things. Then about a week and a half ago, we'd been working now for about 2 years, almost 3 years, with the Tennessee Valley Authority, Fish and Wildlife Service, and the state of Georgia to try to come up with some idea on how we were going to keep the federal hatcheries funded, which is where about 65% of all of our trout come from that would go into our trout stocking. If nothing had happened and those hatcheries closed down, we would have been in really bad shape in terms of being able to continue our trout program. If it continued partially, as the way it was slated to do as of the end of March of this year, only the Corps Engineers was kicking in some money to that, and we would have been really limited, and the stocking would have been primarily, obviously, in Corps of Engineer waters, and the vast majority of trout waters in Tennessee is below TVA dams, and they would not have had anything other than what the agency could furnish out of our 4 hatcheries, which would have been way below what they've been ordinarily to do. So Senator Alexander got us all together, and we came to a consensus on how we would move forward, and TVA has agreed to fund the federal hatcheries on their part at about $900,000 plus a year for the next 3 years. And they've also set up a committee that we're working with. Frank Fisk, who's Assistant Chief in Fisheries, represents us on that. We're working through their board to try to see what we're going to do after that 3 years and how to keep some long-term funding. So all of those things Senator Alexander has been very instrumental in. And I knew y'all had a desire to thank him formally. I asked his office if the commission would take action, would he prefer to be here when that happened? I've given them the dates of the next few commission meetings. I'm still waiting for them to come back and tell us what that would be. But with your permission, we'll go ahead and draft a resolution for your consideration at the next meeting. And if perhaps he can come, that would be the time to do it. If not, then we'd push it to the next meeting that he could come. But we do owe him a great deal of thanks. And some of the other congressional staff were also very much involved, but he was the champion in every one of those. So it's right to honor him for what he has done. So any questions on that or comments on any of those things I just mentioned? Well, moving on, as the next meeting is coming up in June, we'll be talking about waterfowl, and then in August we'll be trying to set the waterfowl seasons. As part of that, we've talked about sandhill cranes for a number of years now. The sandhill crane survey is done. We're going to give you all the sandhill crane survey in almost its final draft as you leave today. We finally got that together, and you can be looking that over to have that to see what, it's about a 70-page report, so we'll give you the highlights of what you think, what we thought were the most important parts out of that, and of the summary that we're giving you today. If you want to make a mental note in the Roman numerals, page 7 would be the one I think you probably would want to key in on. Other than that, I don't have anything further from the agency unless y'all have questions of me. We do appreciate all y'all have gone through in the season setting. I know it's terribly convoluted because when you change one thing, it changes so many. And we have so many partners that we want to make sure that we keep them in tow with whatever we do. We want to make sure we don't catch them blindsided, whether it's the Forest Service, Park Service, State Forest, State Parks. All those people work well with us, and we want to maintain that relationship. So thank you all for your patience as we try to go through all these. And sometimes I know it looks like we're dragging our feet on a couple of things, but it's because we have to coordinate with so many other people to make sure that we keep our partners in loop. So we appreciate your patience.
Thank you, Director Carter. And I want you to know that at any time, the commission is not trying to make changes that doesn't give you ample time to make sure that you have time to address that with the people that are involved in, like in the MOUs and all. So if we've put you in a position that makes it uncomfortable, we apologize. But obviously, I felt like, or any amendments that we made should be done today so that the public can see us making those changes. But I do apologize if we put you in a position that you're going to have to go back and explain to them. But I think we did what we felt was right, and that's what we're here for. So
It is what the commission is supposed to do. And we do have shouldn't call it self-imposed deadline, but in order to have the hunting guide out by the time hunting season starts, we really do have to make any of the changes that we're going to make that relate to the overall hunting season really need to be due at this meeting, and that's what you've done. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Anybody else have a comment?
Mr. Carter, would you stay up there, please? Chairman McMillan, you mentioned the word honor a while ago, and that's what I want to do for just a second, if y'all bear with me. I've always had the utmost respect for you officers, and I learned that when I was a little boy. I spent a lot of time as a child at my grandmother's house, and her next door neighbor was one of the kindest, most Christian men I ever met. And in 1949, they formed the Tennessee Game and Fish Commission. And this man was one of the original 150 that was hired. He was original 49er. And I grew up in his yard playing, and that's why I've always had so much respect for y'all, because of what he taught me. And I'll never forget, when he was 87 years old, I was mowing Beach Lake, and I looked, and here come this old man, barely getting across the field. I had to shut my mower off, and I said, Mr. George, is something wrong? He said, no, I just come congratulate you. I read where you were a commissioner. He was more proud than I was. And he passed away this past week, and this agency lost a lot of history, and he was a good, kind old man. And God treated him well, living to 91. He drove till he was 90. I wish I'd sign a contract today if you could tell me I could do that. But what I want to say is this. His wife, Miss Lois, and Janet and Judy, I actually got to be a pallbearer at his funeral, but they wanted me to tell y'all how much they appreciated y'all, and that the honor guard was there, and they stayed the whole time and went to the cemetery, and what it meant to them, the respect that y'all showed them. And on their behalf, I want to thank y'all today. But thank you, Director Carter.
I'll pass that on to our personnel, and obviously it was an honor for us to do that.
He loved this agency. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Griggs. Does anybody else want to address questions? So I guess our next meeting is going to be at Nashville on June 27th and 28th. And if there are other comments or questions, then we're adjourned. Thank you.